Hello and welcome to Universally Direct. This is the first video of the channel, and for this first video I've really been struggling over what I wanted to talk about, how I was going to present myself, because this really is going to lay the foundation for the channel going forward. And originally what I wanted to do is I wanted to just dive right in and start with the three-part series, which I'm still going to do, just not now. And that's going to be focused around being a parent and raising, good kids. It's going to be, pretty specific to me being a father, raising a son, but it definitely can apply to mothers and to daughters. Um, and I just want to get out there before the page gets rolling that um, the title of the channel is Universally Direct. And that's because everything that I'm going to try to talk about on this channel I'm going to do my best to make it universal so it can be relatable to anybody from any walk of life. And I'm also not going to sugarcoat shit. And I say that specifically in that way so you know that it's gonna be direct and blunt, and I'm not gonna hold anything back with that. And that was a big decision that I made, because at first I thought, I'm gonna need to dress up for each of these little videos. I wanna be in a nice location. I'm going to bring my A game as far as vocabulary and articulation when I'm filming this. And then I realized, that in my group of peers and, realistically, all the people who might see this video, there's not going to be any professionals in that circle. So, I decided to totally change the feel of the page, and my approach is just going to be me, unfiltered as I come, take it or leave it, because I know that in all honesty, all of the people who might watch these videos, who are going to get a chance to see them, are going to be just regular, everyday people like me. And so I think it's important to, at first, establish that base and make sure that I'm being relatable to everyday people. I'm talking like I normally talk, not trying to put on, and not that necessarily I can't be professional or that I'm not professional or serious, for a large portion of the day every day. But I just want it to be comfortable, basically. Let's leave it at that. And as far as that three-part series about my philosophy in parenting, that's still going to come. But in the midst of all of this contemplation, with what I wanted to talk about, how I wanted to break the ice, and all of that, a lot of drama happened in my personal life, and it's still happening. It's very, very fresh what's going on, and I realized that maybe with this first video, I'm just gonna take it as as it's coming to me, because it might be a lot more genuine if I just talk about the troubles that I'm going through immediately, because they're all fresh on my mind. And it also gives y'all guys a chance to see that just because I'm over here on this side of the screen shooting these videos and trying to help however way I can, it doesn't mean that I'm immune to life. One thing I always say, I'll probably say a million times um, on this journey, is that the only guarantee in this world is that we all will suffer. So, anyways, basically, just to give you a quick background of what's been going on with me personally, about 3 months ago, I had my best friend move in with me because he's an alcoholic, and he had a very terrible problem, and he was what I thought was at rock bottom. um, and he had no one, no family, no friends, pretty much nowhere else left to go. And he was looking at being homeless on the streets like a drunk bum. And he's only 31 years old. I myself, I'm about to be 31, in a couple months. And, in that process, I really did a lot of self reflection. And I realized, I go around saying to people that this guy is my best friend. And I look him dead in the eyes when we're together and I say, "You are my best friend." And I say that all the time, but what does that really mean? You know, how am I proving it? How am I showing it? And when push comes to shove, what am I willing to do to prove that it's true? So I just felt this overwhelming obligation that if he was really someone that I truly cared about and loved, then I would be there. So I pretty much turned my entire life upside down to get him to come. And I took on a huge responsibility because, it's not just like another kid, it's a grown man. You know, it's a lot of food, a lot of shelter, a lot of gas, getting him everywhere he needs to go, and then a lot of my personal time trying to counsel him and mentor him and change his outlook and get him to turn his whole life around. So it was a huge task I undertook, and I might not have really appreciated how much it was going to take out of me. I don't know if I was 100% ready, but then again, who really ever is? There's always something unseen and something bad that's going to happen waiting around the corner. I believe that we can never get too comfortable, and that even though everything might be going right, we must always be smart enough to be planning and preparing to deal with the worst outcome. Even for if no other reason than to be prepared and to have a plan and to know that you can make your way through in the harshest of circumstances. And the whole while you're hoping for the best, though. So even though you're preparing for the worst, you're still hoping for the best. And that's how you got to tackle any choice, even going to fast food. And you hope they have what you like, but if they tell you that they're all out, all right, what else are you willing to eat? It's sounds stupid to make that metaphor about it, but it's true in everything you do. You've always got to prepare for the worst while hoping for the best. And that way you can never be caught off guard, and you can never be stuck frozen, wondering what you're going to do, because you've been there in your mind and you know where you need to go to get out of it. So I thought I knew what I was taking on, and I didn't. I didn't have any idea of really how bad the situation was. And I might get into this stuff later. I'm almost sure that I will. Because during these last, say, 3 months, all kinds of things have happened. It wasn't just one, it was multiple different situations that came about that I wasn't ready for and that really tested everything that I wanted to do. It tested our friendship. And so, for this first video, to condense it all down, let's just say that it didn't end up working out. And, just the other night, I think it was 2 nights ago, I came home and I just came home to a horrible, horrible situation where me and my family were gone, and he was here by himself, and he pretty much completely betrayed my trust, violated everything that I felt was important between us. And it was really, really hard. And I'm gonna go ahead and, humble myself now down to the level where, you know, I would I would be looking and searching for guidance and answers, because in that moment I lost myself, you know, and there had been a big gradual buildup to the point of snapping, but I snapped, and I think it's important to talk about, because I'm attempting to create this channel here where we can have open discussion about life struggles, talk about how hard they are, and figure our way through them, figure the best way through them. And, it's going to be kind of hard for someone sitting on the other side of the screen going through a lot of shit to watch me and say, well, yeah, it's easy for him to say because he's going to school, or he's in this imaginary position where I can do the right thing because it's easier for me. And that's just not true. Life is just as difficult for everybody, as far as making personal choices goes. And even me being on the other side of the screen, I cannot escape the human condition. And I cannot escape the fact that I will suffer. I suffered a lot in many different ways, mostly small through the course of this. But what was also happening was I was getting chipped away at my armor, little by little, whatever it was that was keeping me composed and keeping my head level, to where I was able to assume this responsibility of a 31-year-old human, a grown man alcoholic. I assumed that responsibility, but little by little, whatever fortitude I had was getting broken away by the disappointments and the constant failure, and reverting back to his old habits, and pretty much just not being able to keep his nose clean. And it culminated 2 nights ago when I came home. I lost it, and we got into a fight, and it wasn't really a fight at all, to be honest. I'm really ashamed, uh, because there's nothing but shame in what I did, and I'm gonna have to live with that shame now, because he was my best friend for at least maybe 12 or 13 years, like as best a friend as you could get. And so I'm going to have shame, and it's going to unfold little by little as time goes on. Regret's gonna creep in there, and also this ugly feeling um, of low self-esteem. That's going to find its way in there too. And all those three things are going to get at me. And being that it's an experience from the past that I'll never be able to change, those feelings will never go away. And so, I mean, let's back up to the confrontation. This is a guy who is obliterated drunk. We get into a fight. Well, I pick a fight with him because I'm upset. I'm furious. And, you know, how can any person who's that wasted defend themselves, right? So that's why I say it wasn't really a fight at all, because he was, you know, blackout drunk. He can't jump up fresh-eyed and give me a fair fight. So it was disgraceful. And now I've got to live with that, That's my cross to bear. And I regret, I regret the physical confrontation. I regret hurting him. because he mattered so much. He mattered so much, and I loved him so much so that I was willing to turn my whole life upside down to accommodate him and to assume responsibility for him. And I got let down over and over again throughout the whole 3 months. But then finally, in the biggest way possible, that I just couldn't take it anymore. And I thought that all of that should be the first video. Because before I get into preaching about anything, and before I take this stance of superiority because of the small amount of schooling that I've had so far, and because of I'm continuing my education as we speak, I'm pursuing the PhD. I want to be a psychologist. I have a lot of goals. I'll get into those some other day. But before I really become at home in that position where I'm presenting these discussions online in hopes of helping others and bettering others as well as myself, I need to really drive home to everybody that I'm still a human being. I'm still a victim of the human condition, and I will still suffer just like all of you. So if there's any moment in the future in during the course of watching these videos where you start to feel that you can't relate, come back to this one and remember that I still have just as hard of a time with all of this as you do. And just because I have the blueprints, or I know, like, you know, because of my personal history with going to psychotherapy and attending university, it doesn't make it any easier to make the right choices. I have a horrible hard time, and I fail. I fail a lot. And there's constantly times when I do something that I do regret, and I realize that I went about it the wrong way. Even though I knew better, I still made the mistake. I still failed in that one instance. And I failed 2 nights ago. Um, I failed to be there in the best way possible for this man who I had willingly assumed the responsibility of. And I'm not going to take his actions onto myself, because he has the sole responsibility of what he's been doing this whole time. And every action and choice that he's made is all 100% on him. But I know that there's a lot of responsibility I can take as far as how I reacted. And, long story short, I lost my best friend. And I lost him because of alcohol. And so I'm definitely going to do a lot of videos too in the future about alcoholism. I've got a big, colorful history that goes back to my childhood, all the way up through my young adult years where I was an alcoholic, all the way up through what finally had to happen and what changed in order for me to get my shit together. So I guess if I needed to summarize this first episode, it would just be to show you that I'm human just like everybody, that I'm struggling just like everybody, and it's just as hard for me as it is for you to hear the right thing and then do it, to understand the processes you need to take and then to put them into practice. It's hard for everybody, because one thing I remember he was constantly saying throughout this experience, before he had to go, before I couldn't take it anymore, was he kept always telling me, it's different for you. It's different for you. It's not the same for you. You can do it. You have this. You've got your family. You've got 1,000,001 other reasons why you can do it. I don't have those, so it's harder for me. And that's a load of bullshit. It was no easier for me. It's just hard to accept that I did the hard thing. I got clean. I got my act together. And I still drink all the time. I didn't give up alcohol. I'm not like a recovering alcoholic who's 2 years sober or any of that. I love to drink. It's whiskey, um, and nosing and tasting and exploring this vast world of whiskeys and wines as well is one of my biggest hobbies and passions. But what I did was I grew up and I learned how to regulate. I learned self control and discipline to where I'm responsible enough to enjoy things that could potentially become vices if left unchecked. You know, that's a part of temperance, one of the four cardinal virtues that Aristotle set for us over 2,000 years ago. Temperance and learning to live a life in moderation, those are key to making it through this world without simultaneously depriving yourself of all the pleasures that it has to offer. So, yeah, I'm having a hard time too, guys, and I'm going through a lot of shit in my personal life. I just got into a physical fight, um, and it was by no means honorable or respectable. It was horrible, and I made a huge mistake in going through with actions that now I have to live with that are going to cause me pain for who knows how long. Because just because I got into this confrontation, it doesn't mean that I stopped loving my best friend. I've loved him like a brother and a member of my family and accepted him into my family. And I was betrayed. And it's not easy. So, you know, if any of you are going through at the moment or have gone through recently or even have gone through ever any of those instances of deep betrayal, like say for example, being cheated on by your partner, I just want to take this opportunity to let you know that you're not alone, that we all, no matter where we are, on what side of the screen, we're going through those things as well. And it hurts and it sucks, but at the same time, you've got to remember that in life, we're all going to suffer. It's hard. You're not the only one, but we need to weather through. And you might have to do ugly things in self-interest, like in the interest of your family, in my case, the interest of my kids. I couldn't have this element around my children. I didn't want a drunk man who reeks of alcohol and cigarettes to pick up my little daughter and hold her close to him with the stench all around her, breathing, you know, the beer and the smoke and out of his mouth, his breath covering her face. That makes my blood boil. I could not have that around my children. And so for that, I had to do a very hard thing. And it forced my hand. And I made a choice that now I regret and have to live with. And that chips away at my self-esteem. But the bottom line is that I had to make a hard choice and I made it. We're going to make hard choices. And you might not even be willing to accept the fact that the hard choices will haunt you and they won't just go away. And it's not going to be easy to weigh those choices against other alternatives. And it's not going to be crystal clear that those were the right choices to make because they are hard and they come with consequences. But when you accept that, when you come to this level of acceptance where yes, we're going to suffer, yes, there's things that are going to happen that are going to be detrimental, and it's going to take a very hard choice to break free and to protect your self-interest in those circumstances. When you accept all of those things, then it's possible. Like to break up with somebody who's abusing you or who's cheating on you. That's hard because it comes with heartache, and you're going to be left with a void of longing. You're going to miss that person. You don't just fall out of love, but you need to accept that all these harder consequences and all this suffering is going to come along with those choices. And when you make peace with that and accept the path forward, that it's not going to be easy and that you're going to suffer because of it, then maybe you can start to weigh out, well, I might suffer, you know, in heartache and in longing, but it's a whole lot less suffering than being walked all over, being abused, being taken advantage of, being cheated on, and having your trust violated. The way my trust was violated, and I hope then that the the decisions become easier. You know, it's a tough road, you know, but we've got to do it. We've got to do what's best for our kids and for ourselves. So, you know, next video I'm going to get into more specific things maybe. But for now, I just want to leave it at that, you're not alone, and that my stance here at Universally Direct is to be relatable and to always remind you that I'm no better, and I haven't escaped the human condition either. And all of these things that we talk about going forward are going to be hard. And just know that whether I portray myself in a happy light, or whether I'm upbeat, or whether the topic's more melancholy, it doesn't matter. Like I'm still me. I'm still going through it just like you. But it's going to be universally applicable, and I'm going to give it to you direct. So until next video, thanks. Thank you so much. If you stuck through it, and hang in there. Be willing to make the hard choices and walk the hard road. Thanks.